And so I understand the heavy sales tactics that a lot of stores are using right now. And it really just made me think to myself, we really need to take a step back and just think about what we're doing. It's very easy to get caught up in the quote unquote holiday spirit. And before you know it, you've spent way more money than you ever should. And you've got buyer's remorse and you're regretting it. And then January and February, you're digging yourself out of holes that you really got yourself into trying to make the holidays the perfect time of year and stuff. And so I just wanted to talk through some different budgeting tips and everything like that. On average, they say the typical household is usually spending about Welcome to the Home Goals Podcast, the ultimate guide for turning your home goals into a reality. I'm your host, Derek Thornton. Join us as we navigate the twists and turns of obtaining a home. We'll be offering expert tips, helping you avoid pitfalls, and championing your journey towards that cherished place to call home. In this week's episode, we'll be discussing some holiday budgeting tips. And I hadn't originally planned on talking about that this week, but I had an experience at the store that really made me think to myself, I might want to discuss this a little bit more. So I was at the store and I was getting ready to check out. I had a coupon that I wanted to use for what I was purchasing. It was a 20% off coupon, and I was asking the clerk, like, hey, I've got this coupon. I'm not sure if it'll work, but if it can, like, I'd love to be able to use this towards the purchase. And she immediately said, oh, well, I can do you one better. I'll get you 40% off of this purchase. All you have to do is just sign up for the car. And she said it so fast, I was like, what? In my mind, I was thinking that she was talking about maybe like a rewards loyalty program or something. So I was like, hey, like, sure, I'll sign up for that and unsubscribe from your emails a week later and get my little 40% off discount now. But what she was really talking about was signing up for the store's credit card in order for me to get that discount. And of course, I was like, absolutely not. I don't want to sign. I don't need another card. I don't need another opportunity to get further into debt just for a little purchase that I'm doing right here. But the holidays is absolutely one of the biggest times of year where people really get caught in these traps. It transported me back to my junior days in high school when I was working at the Hudson Belk store at the time. It's Belk now, but I remember they had a time where they required us to sell credit cards, right? And we had to leave the floor, leave the sales floor, which is basically how we made our money. And we had to go out in front of the store and stand out there and try to get someone to sign up for this credit card. And we could not come back on the sales floor until we got at least one person to sign up. And so I understand the heavy sales tactics that a lot of stores are using right now. And it really just made me think to myself, we really need to take a step back and just think about what we're doing. It's very easy to get caught up in the quote unquote holiday spirit. And before you know it, you've spent way more money than you ever should. And you've got buyer's remorse and you're regretting it. And then January and February, you're digging yourself out of holes that you really got yourself into trying to make the holidays the perfect time of year and stuff. And so I just wanted to talk through some different budgeting tips and everything like that. On average, they say the typical household is usually spending about $1,000 per Christmas season on gifts. And depending on the household, this may be a low ball number, right? There may be some spending way more than that. And so, like I said, we want to kind of get into a feel of what's more realistic and what is a good idea for your household. Because again, especially for those of you out there who have plans to be able to purchase a home of your own someday, this is something you really need to be able to lock down and get into place. Not just for the holidays, but for any time. You know what expenses and things that you have coming down the pipe. You already know that ahead of time. And so we're going to talk about ways that you can prepare for that and make sure that it's not an issue for you down the road. One rule of thumb that I heard that I kind of liked the way that they set it up is that they were saying that on average, you should expect to spend a max of 1% of your annual income total on gifts for the household. Now, again, that's just somebody's general rule of thumb. It may be different depending on your household and what your goals and plans are and stuff like that. But that if you're just trying to get an idea of what is quote unquote reasonable in some cases, that could be something that you want to use, right? You could say, hey, we'll have if our household has a $70,000 income, then we know we have $700 that we can put towards the gifts. And just setting that limit, one, you're already a step ahead of many people out there because you're taking the time to actually put a cap on what you plan on spending. But then not only that, like it provides the freedom that you would typically have with a budget. Right. Usually when people think of a budget or something like that or a savings plan, they're thinking of all these restrictions being placed on them, and they're thinking of someone kind of standing over them and saying, no, you can't get this and no, you can't have that. But in reality, a budget and setting a savings plan provides a ton of freedom in many cases, because now you can make that purchase, you can make that expense or whatever it is that you're trying to buy, and you don't feel that initial guilt afterwards. Right. When you're just out there just wheeling and dealing and just buying whatever you come across that seems like a good idea, a lot more times you're usually feeling bad about it when you go home. Be like, did I really need to get that? Was that a necessary purchase? Am I going to regret this later? When you set a budget, you have the funds to be able to spend on those different things, and you're not really worried as much about what's going to happen or what's going to change in the meantime, right? And so that is always one helpful thing. So I've got 5 tips that we're going to talk about just for preparing for holiday budgets. And the first one is right in line with what I was just saying, and as far as setting a limit, right? So do this up front as soon as the holiday season comes around, because again, you're likely going to have all different types of people pulling at you for different things. You might have a family group say like, hey, we want to do gifts amongst the family. You might have your job that's saying they want to do Secret Santa, and you got all these different things right there. So if you set a limit right out of the gate, that is your way to basically give you the permission to say no. Right. No one wants to say no on a lot of those different things or say, oh, I don't want to participate in that or I don't want to do that. But if you set your limitations up front, you'll find not only are most people going to be respectful of that, but you may even start a new wave. Like I guarantee you there's other people in those different groups. They don't want to spend that money as well, but they're just too scared to say something. So if you could say, hey, right out of the gate, here's the limit or here's the budget I've set for myself this Christmas. I don't have the funds, the margin to be able to spend on this one, or I can't spend to that level. More times than not, you'll find that the people who are in those different groups or categories, they are feeling the same way that you're feeling as well and will gladly accept that, right? And so just putting that out there, setting that limit and saying right up front, this is how much I'm going to spend. Now, in going with that first one, it is very, very easy for you to go over that limit in a lot of stores, right? There's marketers and different people who work for these companies. They spend millions and billions of dollars studying your spending habits and trying to figure out what is the easiest way to get you to spend more money. Right. When you return something from Amazon, a lot of times they give you the option to go into a store to return it. The reason they do that is because they know if we can get you in this store, we more than likely can get you to spend additional money in this store while you're making that return. Right. All these different things are set up to entice you and to make it easier for you to spend more and more money. And so you have to really be intentional about the way that you set those boundaries and limits on yourself. And one of the easiest ways to do that in step number 2 is by using cash for all of your purchases, right? So you can make the decision, say, hey, if I have $500 that I'm going to spend towards Christmas gifts this year, you could be as bold to say that I'm going to actually take it a step further and take my debit card, whatever credit cards you may have, take all of them out of your wallet or your purse, set them on the counter, leave them at the house, and just take the cash with you. And it's going to really change your entire mindset when you're out shopping. Now, instead of just going out and making those purchases, you're actually going to pull out your phone and your calculator and figure out, okay, yes, this says that it's $49.99. What is that plus tax? Because I don't have my card here to help me on the other end. Now, granted, this is going to still require some kind of intentional boundaries on your part, because I know a lot of stores have Apple Pay in your phones and stuff like that too. And so it's not always a foolproof plan, but try to set as many guardrails in place as you can to make sure that you stick to using that plan of only having cash available, because it's going to make sure that you are a lot more mindful of what you're spending, and you're not going to quote unquote talk yourself into making purchases that are slightly above, and then before you know it, you've way exceeded the budget, right? And so if you start with just using cash, it's going to make life a ton easier on you in preparing and making sure that you have everything situated and everything ready to go. tip number 3, I should say, is one that is really near and dear to our family's heart, especially my wife. She's very big on experiences. And that is one thing that I would definitely offer as a tip, is focus on creating experiences or memories as opposed to giving gifts. That is one of the best ways to kind of make those Christmas moments feel more magic and enjoy them a little bit more. We have all different types of things that we like to attend. There's a local town, little window wonderland that we like to go to every single year. There's no cost for it. I mean, granted, like I said, you might pay for like some hot chocolate or something like that while you're there, but for the most part, there's no cost for you to attend it and just kind of walk around and enjoy the light show, right? There's Piper Lights out in Wake Forest. We'll go to that some years as well. Just drive around, get in our PJs, pop a little popcorn, get some hot chocolate for the kids in the car, and just drive down and look through the lights. We'll go to Nightdale. They have a little light show in there as well. There's a neighborhood planners walk. We'll go through there and walk through there and just see those lights as well. I'm trying to think of some other ones. Christmas Eve services, like we will often go to a church Christmas Eve service as well. That's a wonderful opportunity. And these are things that we enjoy doing every single year. There's a ton of activities and events that are taking place, and a lot of them out there are of no charge to you. It's just being able to create that memory of going out and enjoying and having fun that doesn't involve you having to spend money or wrap gifts or anything like that. So find ways that you can have those experiences, right? Maybe you make it a holiday tradition that you guys go out and just drive around the city and get lost and look at Christmas lights and everything like that while you're kind of just hanging out and stuff like that. Find ways to do that. Maybe you have a holiday movie night, right, where you're getting everyone together in their PJs and stuff like that. Like, find ways to do things like that that aren't as focused on the gift giving portion of it, but really focused on being able to just have fun and enjoy the people that you want to spend time with, right? Those are excellent ways to kind of really get back to it. And if you're feeling bad about not giving the gifts as much or focusing more on experiences over the gifts, one thing you can do to kind of help yourself feel better, especially for the parents out there who have kids, one thing you can do to really make yourself feel a little bit better about this is I want you to pull a little experiment or a test and get your kids together and ask them to name or rattle off one or even some of the gifts that you gave them last year, right? So gather all your kids together and say, hey, name a gift or gifts that I gave you last year. And I'm willing to bet they probably don't even remember. They might be sitting there thinking to themselves, I think maybe was that 2 Christmases ago? And you'll realize very quickly that a lot of those gifts are forgotten about in an instant, right? They don't even realize it or understand it and stuff like that too. And so it's always better to create those lasting feelings or memories created through those experiences. And so don't feel bad doing that. Find ways to make it a special moment that your family can enjoy that isn't going to break the bank. Now, the 4th and the 5th tip, these are more so related to preparing for the holidays before it, right? So the first 3 are more so things that you can start doing right now in the moment. 4 and 5 are more so focused on preparing for Christmas ahead of time, right? Because Christmas falls on the same time every single year. It sneaks up on us, but again, we have no one to blame but ourselves if we're not prepared for it when it does come around. Like, it's the same time every single year, right? And so you have the time to prepare and get ready for it. And so tips 4 and 5. So the first one for 4 is prepare a post-holiday plan. And this is basically where you're sitting down after the holidays and the craziness of the season is over. You're sitting down and you're creating a plan to make sure that you aren't scrambling or trying to figure out last minute plans next year, right? You're creating that plan and saying, okay, here's how much I want to save up for the year. Here's how much here's what type of gifts I'd like to do. Here's what type of trips I'd like to plan. Because the earlier you can plan these things out, the more you can benefit yourself later on, right? So like I said, when the summer comes around, hey, a lot of the clothing and the articles and things like that would typically be sold during Christmas times, they're oftentimes going to be on sale, so you can get those for cheaper. If you already have a plan going into the holiday season, before you ever even get there, when Black Friday and Cyber Monday and all these deals start coming around, Labor Day deals, all those different big holiday savings things are coming down the pipe, you can take advantage of those and use it to be early and start getting those gifts. Now, granted, I understand, I have kids myself, so I understand that you may not even know what type of new toy is going to be the it toy from year to year, but you can still say like, hey, if there's stuff that I know that I want to get for them, maybe it could be some clothes out there or a tablet or something like that, you can look out for those sales and kind of get an idea. There's a website that I use, it's called Camel, 3 times the word camel, that like the animal, all 3 times in a row, camel.com. That's a site that basically tracks the pricing of different items. And so you can look to see like, hey, if there's a sale on a tablet or something, you can type in that tablet on there and it'll show you the historical pricing of that tablet. It'll show you the highest that price has ever been as well as the lowest. And so you can be able to quickly tell if the deal that you're getting is actually a deal. Right. And so that's a great site to use and a resource for you that, again, you can use all throughout the year so that if you want to be proactive and get these gifts ahead of time, you can really get the best savings possible. Right. And so that's one thing, too, is just coming up with that plan ahead of time. And then in keeping with tip number 4, tip number 5 is figure out a way to save throughout the year. Now, I used to work for the State Employees Credit Union, and we had a awesome program that they basically set up where it was essentially a holiday or a Christmas savings plan that you could use. It was an account that you could set up that it would automatically pull the funds throughout the year for whatever you wanted to save. So let's say you wanted to save $600 throughout the course of the year. Every month is going to take out 1/12 of that amount and put it into this savings account so that when the year end comes along, voila, you got your money, right? So like just being proactive and thinking about what you're going to have in there. And then again, like I said, once the holiday time finally does come along, you can go right into your plan of, hey, I'm going to take out those funds in cash and I'm just going to use that to pay for whatever the gifts are. And so if I end up with a secret Santa that I wasn't expecting to do, or if I have a holiday Christmas party where I get invited to and I'm having to do gifts for that, I can make those changes and say like, hey, either I have the margin for those in my budget or I don't, but it's up to you how you want that to operate or work. Now, granted, the one downside to having that savings plan throughout the year is that, let's say, for example, on Labor Day, you find out that there's this massive discount on something that you wanted to purchase for the holidays. You might have to dip into those funds before it finally has everything going. But again, you're still making those savings. And if you've done your research ahead of time, you know whether or not it's worth it for you to go ahead and dip into that account prior to the holiday season actually arriving. But that's a great way to do it. And if possible, you want to make it as difficult as you can to access those funds, right? And so if it's an account where you can just quickly go on your phone and easily transfer the money over, more times than not, that's not going to be it. So like try to put those guardrails and obstacles in place intentionally. That way you can make it easier for yourself, right? So I would even go so far as to say is if you bank with another bank, try to see if you could set up that account or that automatic transfer with the other bank so that you can't as easily transfer the funds into whatever you're using on a daily basis or anything like that, right? Again, you're just trying to put those guardrails in place. And not to say that you don't have the strength or the willpower to do it, but again, you want to make sure that you have things in place to hold yourself accountable. That's one of our biggest problems with holiday spending is that there's really no one to hold us accountable. You might have your spouse or a partner with you as well, too, but a lot of times they want it to be a magical Christmas season as well, too. And so they may not be the best person in all situations to kind of pull the reins and make sure that you're staying in the right confines that you need to make that a decision that you don't regret, right? And so do everything you can to make sure that you're proactive. Nobody knows you better than you do. You know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, you know what you're likely to do, what you're likely to spend money on, right? Look at your bank account over the past month and see what you've spent funds on. And you're going to find out that more than likely that's usually what you spend money on during the holiday season on most years, right? And so figure out ways to pick up on those patterns and the things that you typically do and find a way to plan for them so that you have the freedom to be able to make it a wonderful holiday season and not have those decisions be something that you regret later on. So I hope that that's helpful for you all. Have a wonderful holiday season. Continue to enjoy this time. Enjoy making those memories and those lasting impressions instead of focusing on the gifts and everything like that. So I hope that you guys enjoy it. Have a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you next time.